Well, I'm entering as a user rather than a. Say again? 927 905. That looks familiar. Okay. Dun dun dun. I'm in. There we go. Got it. There we are. Thank you, KB. So, hello, dear friends on Zoom. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. My apologies for our tardiness. I never sleep in past 6. And I woke up and went to the bathroom and went back to bed and woke up at, I don't know, 9. And it's a half-hour drive. So we're doing very well getting things back together, I think. What a team. It's like a formula. The formula, the pit with the formula cars. Are you good to go? Oh my gosh. Very impressive. Oh, no worries. The World Cup final game is on. Is it happening right now? It's just who won? Argentina. And what? In a shootout. Sounds like this. It sounds like the streets of New York. Well. It's rather strange that we watch a group of very talented, fit people on the other side of the planet chasing a ball. It's amazing. Well, here we are. I'm impressed getting it together this quick. So anybody here for the first time today? 1, 2. Welcome. One thing I haven't checked is, can you hear people from Zoom now? You've got that already too? Wow, okay. Wow. Why did I what? Because it was such. I'm surprised because it was such a chaotic mess in the sound room last night and this morning. Well, okay. Let us remind ourselves of the refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Can you hear the guitar from there? It's not amplified in any way. I got to play with 4 musicians here last night. I've had very little experience playing with anybody other than myself, and it was an experience of Sangha, or community. Over there, quite close, was a giant bass. And I have trouble with time. My teacher's always saying, use the damn metronome. And but with the bass in the background, it was just like, oh, that's the time. It was really quite wonderful. An example of how we support one another, or can. So please join in if you wish. I take refuge in being awake. It's refuge in the Buddha, that part of us which is awake right now. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the way things actually are. And I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of practice and the lineage. It's since the time of the Buddha, it's been 2,600 years. Imagine that. A human being had an experience 2.5 centuries ago, 2.5 millennia ago, and then spent 40 years teaching other people to have the experience he did, having the transformative experience he did. And here we sit in a living line from that person. And I like to say, the Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, and he didn't teach Buddhism. He taught the Dharma. He was really a scientist, and he taught how things actually are. So please join in if you wish. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Wow.
Did I lose sound? Did everybody lose sound?
So we can uncover something's happening here. It's taken a lot of intention and activity to be here this morning. It takes the opening of the heart to a certain kind of question, which is the fundamental question, which is, who am I? What am I? And we could set off into philosophy or psychology. We could read a lot of books and listen to other people's answers. What the Buddha discovered and taught, suggested that others do, is to do the original research ourselves. And in that way, there's no debating anything. There's nothing to argue about. There can be simply the question, what's happening right now? And we could respond, well, there's a body sitting here. Some body sits here. And the body is alive. And since it's alive, it's breathing. And it comes along with this body comes along with consciousness. Strange thing. And so it's possible to be aware of breathing in and breathing out. And so let us notice the very first moment of each breath when we can. And from that first moment comes the rising of the chest and abdomen, rising to fullness, and then declining, and then disappearing. I guess on this morning of the resolution of the World Cup, there's another ultimate spectator sport, observing the breath. Noticing the breath and also noticing the mind. Noticing the thoughts that come up. The thoughts that sweep us away. The opinions, the moods, the stories, the fantasies, the fears. It's an act of great kindness. To be here and to pay attention to what's happening in the present moment. An act of great love. And time and again, when the mind wanders, come home. Come home to the present moment and to this breathing. One of the strategies to help remember and focus awareness on breathing is called noting. As the chest and abdomen rise, one can make the tiny little mental notes rising, rising. As they fall, as it falls, we notice falling, falling. When we discover the mind wandering, we make the mental note wandering, wandering, returning, returning. Or maybe it's thinking, thinking, or worrying, worrying. If we are noting the, it's maybe 5% of our life energy, of our awareness goes into the noting. The rest is focused on being intimate with the sensations of breathing. There is a very predictable oscillation in our experience between distinct present awareness of the breath in this moment and being lost in the dream. The dream of I, me, mine, mine, mine. It's the dream we all share. Each of us, according to our personalities, have variations. Some of us worry a lot. Some work challenged with depression, or some minds dwell in the past. Some live in an imagined future, anxieties often. But the treatment program is very common for the human condition. It is when asked for the most succinct statement of his teachings, the Buddha answered, try to live in the present moment. Try to live in the present moment. The translation of that might be, recognize, wake up when you're in a trance, when some emotional state is rolling along inside you, when you're kind of contracted around some ideas. Wake up and notice thinking, and come home to breathing. Come home to the whole body sitting here. The whole body is singing all the time, the song of life. Right now, you could be aware of your hands, the life of your hands. You could notice the life of your feet. You could be aware of the life which is your face, what you think of as your face. And each breath, each birth into a new moment is like a lighthouse or a beacon. Come this way. It's safe this way. This is the entrance to the harbor. Here, now. We can encourage and invite ourselves to settle back into the present moment. To recognize that there's nothing to achieve, there's nowhere to get to. If the goal is to be here now, there's not much to do except be aware of being here now. here now with this breathing in and breathing out. In addition to attending to the life of the body, in breathing and out breathing, we can notice regions where it's cool and warm. We can notice places where there is discomfort, even pain or pleasure. And it's possible also to observe the quality of mind which is present. Mind itself is pure, but there are attributes. For instance, is this a mind which is calm and quiet, or a mind which is agitated, noisy, busy? Is it a mind where there's suffering because it wants something to be different? Or is it a mind that is really not suffering much at all because it accepts what reality is right now? Is it a mind with irritation and anger, aversion? Or perhaps a mind that is very loving, very open, accepting, Is it a mind that's wide awake, or is it pretty sleepy and dull? We become increasingly curious. What's happening? And so we use mindfulness of in-breathing and out-breathing to help us anchor here in the present moment in reality, and to help illuminate the various deluded states of mind. It's fascinating to notice how convincing a wandering mind is. And then mindfulness winks on, and that whole world of imagination is gone. That whole conversation is gone. Often you can't even remember what it was. And so here we are, sitting and breathing. And please now notice the aliveness where the body presses against the chair or the cushion or the floor. Notice the aliveness of the hands and fingers. The cheeks, the lips, the eyes. In particular, noticing the eyes. Feel the eyes. And then noticing what's required to open the eyes, the intention. And then observing as somehow or another you can do it. You can open the eyes. Notice the moment of, there's a certain effort that's made, and then they open. They open, and then something pretty radical happens. Seeing happens. Who is it that's seeing? Who is seeing? In the 12th century, there lived a man named Jalaluddin Rumi. He was born in Balkh, in Bactria, which is northern Afghanistan, just a little west of Mazar-i-Sharif. And something happened to him. It's quite a remarkable story, a story of great loss. And he started spouting poetry. He started just walking around spouting poetry. And it was from him. From him comes the lineage of the Sufis, the mystical side of Islam. A man named Shams blew into his life, and he was basically a college professor. And something happened in the connection between them, and transformed him. And the story goes that Rumi's sons killed Shams, that their father had kind of gone crazy. And anyway, he was so stricken with grief that he was walking around a pillar, holding the pillar with his hand, and He was just walked around this and did this for days and had some kind of profound awakening happened. And it's from that the whirling dervishes come. And the dervishes danced in. I went on pilgrimage to his tomb in Konya in Turkey. And but he just was this fountain of wisdom and poetry. And there's a book. It's a big book. It's about it's this thick, in beautiful Arabic script. It's called the Mathnawi, and it exists in his tomb. And I could make this too long a story. I met a man, and my daughter and I were going in, and a man came up to us, a security guard, came up to us and spoke very good English. And we get speaking. He accompanied us on our looking around. And we got to the Mathnawi, and I was moved. It's like, here it is. This is where all the poetry comes from. And he said, take a photo. I said, there's all these signs of photography forbidden. And I said, forbidden. And he said, no flash. It turned out he was the head of security for the tomb. And we spent 4 or 5 hours with him. He's a lovely man. But all of that around this poem that came up while we were sitting. Who says these words with my mouth? I can't do this poem without feeling very aware of the strangeness that's happening in my face. All day I think about it, then at night I say it. Where did I come from, and what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. My soul is from elsewhere, I'm sure of that, and I intend to end up there. This drunkenness began in some other tavern. When I get back around to that place, I'll be completely sober. Meanwhile, I'm like a bird from another continent sitting in this aviary. The day is coming. The day is coming when I will fly off. But who is it now in my ear who hears my voice? Who says these words with my mouth? Who looks out with my eyes? What is the soul? I cannot stop asking. If I could taste one small sip of an answer, I could break out of this prison for drunks. I didn't come here of my own accord, and I can't leave that way. Whoever brought me here will have to take me back. This poetry, I never know what I'm going to say. I don't plan it. When I am outside the saying of it, I get very quiet and rarely speak at all. Who says these words with my mouth? I'm going to ask Jim to do a little movement meditation with you, but I'll be responsible and make a few announcements first. We don't have the final tally, but last night's birthday party was also a fundraiser. And it looks as though we took in about $8,000. And that will be doubled by anonymous donors. And I forgot to turn off my watch while I was sitting here, and my wife Jennifer texted me that family friends of ours donated this morning another $2,000. So we're doing quite a wonderful job of fundraising right now, and we need it, end of year. So thank you to everyone that, I could come back to that actually. Get back to Zoom, I got that's not it. There you are. Hi, hello again. There's still time before the end of the year to contribute, and we still have some dollars to be matched. Beyond that, We decided to move the birthday cake in here last night, in the middle of the room. It was a heavy thing to carry, really. And I had one of the big knives from the kitchen to do and the lights got low and people sang. And then I was about to cut the cake. It's quite an interesting ritual, isn't it? To cut the cake. And I paused for quite a long time. And I was thinking about Ruth Denison and how Ruth Denison, my teacher of 44 years, who passed away about 6 years ago now. There's a picture of her over there. This building would not exist without her. Her kindness and generosity, encouragement. But I was thinking how happy she would be to see what's come of her idea to create this center, this Dharma Center. Right? I waited quite a long time. And then we had a lot of cake. Boy, I ate more cake than I should, of course. And speaking of which, we have another cake in the fridge, which is larger than the cake we ate last night. This is very fine cake from Mary's Little Flower Bakery down on 52nd. I mean, this is really fantastic cake. And so we'll have that out this morning. And then we also have quite a lot of food left. Several trays that weren't opened of very fine hors d'oeuvres from Elephant's Deli. I mean, this is high-end, really fine food. So we'll have some of that out. But also then I'm going to ask you, if you know somewhere that you could take it, that it would be well used, that'd be great. I have sometimes in the past taken it to a homeless camp or something like that, someplace like that. This would do better to some kind of organization that could use it well. So if you have if you would know what to do with that today or tomorrow, please approach me and let me know. Other announcements? Say, Yes, yeah. Kendall Summers will be teaching. Maybe Sisters of the Road. Kendall Summers will be teaching this evening, 6:30, her Insight and Metta meditation group. The Be Queer Now group meets tonight at 6:30. These are both on Zoom. New Year's Eve here, 7:30, we'll be having a potluck. And then we will have a grief ritual. And then we will come to life on the other side of our grief. And we will do some meditation and then reflect on the precepts and chant our way into the new year. So that's a fine thing you could do on your New Year's. And there's a suggested donation, I think, of $20 at the door. And there's more classes. Check out the website. It's really, there's, what's it being called? The DEI thing? It's Awakening Together? Awakening Together using Larry Yang's book of the same name, right? January 10th at 7. Look on the website. But it's a, we have an ongoing aspiration to be a really welcoming community and to invite actively those who have not been invited or who have been disinvited to participating in the Dharma. Okay, enough announcements. Yeah. So Jim will do some movement meditation now, and then I'm going to give some Dharma reflection after that. And then At 12 o'clock, you better stay because we really need people to eat food. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, dear friends on Zoom.
Testing sound. Okay. So I'm still working on who speaks these words with this mouth. So open your mouth and feel how A has a form, E has a form, I has a form, O. We have little kids in our extended family, and they're finding out all about this right now. So they walk around with their mouth in all sorts of weird places. Thank you. Okay, so when I begin my classes in Qigong and Tai Chi, I first of all imagine Ruth Dennison, leading movement up here at various times that I witnessed that. She brought a lot of awareness into every move in her body. And I've seen many of her videos on on YouTube and places. And so I think, this is what the body can do. We can swing. And in order to, we say a word called swing, and immediately people know how to respond to that, if they're willing to play the game. But just feel the muscles and tendons and nerves that are firing off to just swing. And waving across like we have a move in one of the Qigong forms. Well, let's do it. Where we, first of all, we lift up and release and just become aware of the shoulders, the wrists, the knees, the ankles. In order to do a simple opening, just get the qi flowing through joints that have been stiff and static for too long. We do an opening and then we open to the side and get more oxygen, more qi. Qi and oxygen work together. They may be the same thing, I'm not sure. And then painting a rainbow is lifting two hands and then just using your fingers as a paintbrush, painting a rainbow. So when I'm teaching, I'm aware of words coming out of this mouth that have meaning and can be looked up in a dictionary, and then pause. And then the meaning of the word represents an action, and action in a group involves all kinds of mirror neurons. What I'm doing, you want to do just because. The body just likes moving together. That's why there's folk dancing, That's what kept communities together for hundreds of years. There's mirror neurons, there's words, and then there's presence. What does movement feel like? Just standing, reaching across with your thumb and touching your pinky. And then opening again and reaching across and touching your pinky. Feel all the tendons and muscles and nerves in the hand. We're painting a rainbow. There's all kinds of stuff happening from the floor all the way to the crown of your head. But just reaching across to the ring fingers, that's different. The body knows how to make contact when I say ring finger, bingo. But there's someone aware of the difference. Opening, and then the middle finger. Opening. There's a feeling of openness. We can be aware of open, relaxed digits extending from the palm. Again, I'm using words that aren't necessary, except that we want to do it together. Opening the hand feels like this. This is not verbal. This is not sound. This is if I put a word to it like open and then say, touch the pointer with the thumb, who's touching who? Is it the pointer touching the thumb or the thumb touching the pointer? There's an experience of this, but to analyze it is crazy making. It's not needed and it's not helpful. But we get into a pattern of doing things together, opening, closing the fist, softening the fist, extending out. We got that okay sign again. And then just contact. Bingo. Contact. Every time we make contact, there's a little wave of bioelectrical energy. It goes through the whole system. If you study acupressure or acupuncture, there's threads, there's channels, there's meridians where energy flows. So when you contact, there's just a few square centimeters of contact, but the impulse is everywhere through the body. If we sink, open, make contact above, and just hold it there for a minute. That's contact. Which hand is touching which hand? Contact is this. It's hard to analyze, but it's easy to be aware of it. Now, pointing down takes energy, takes effort, intention. Pointing down. We were pointing up with all of our intention and all of our extended ligaments and muscles, and then pointing down is a little more complicated. And then relax and just follow the front of the torso, move over to the hips, go down the outside of the legs, contact, moving contact, changing contact, up the inside, around back, touch one hand with the other, contact, come in front, touch one hand with the other, contact. Awareness of contact. And then openness. There's still contact with the feet in connection with the floor. There's contact between the tongue and the inside of the mouth. But when I say open, all the attention goes into an open palm and feeling the effects of all this movement. So let's do it again. Sink, open, contact with intention and a little bit of effort, contact with a lot more effort, pointing down, and then soft contact across the shoulders, down the torso, over to the outside of the hips and the outside of the legs. Up the inside, contact. Around and back. Moving to the front. Around and back. Aware of contact. And then open. Then feel the effects of this intentional, energetic contact, soft, gradually changing contact, and then stillness. Contact with the earth, aware of the breath. Relax down and open again, but this time we'll just make it big circles and gather all this experience of mindful movement. We can be mindful of this, 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 and this. Very specific, feeling the tips of the fingers or the soles of the feet or just the entire torso. Opening, gathering in the center, and then resting. Bring your feet together and your hands together in gratitude. Another chance to practice together. Thank you very much. I'm going to be doing a Qigong workshop in the next year. Doesn't that sound crazy? Next year is only 10 days away or something. But I'll be here on the 7th of January.
Oh, I got another plan. Sheesh. So there he was at the front of the room, and he pulled out his phone, and they thought, what the hell is he doing? And then he went further, and uh-oh, hang on just a second, please. I have to get the microphone working. It got unplugged last night. Test 1, 2, 3. All right. Coming in through the miracles of the telephone is Kendall Summers. There you go, Kendall.
Then he went further.
Uh-oh, it's not going to work.
Wait a minute, it might. Hang on.
Turn up. All right. You have us.
And then he went further, and he called Candle. You are very skilled Robert, on such an amazing morning as this after last night. So I just want to mention, is this okay for my voice?
Perfect.
Okay, good. Tonight on the first and third Sunday sit, because the winter solstice is coming up on Wednesday, I would like to do something a little different. So because of this time of darkness outside and the inner darkness that happens a lot and various ups and downs that we have through this whole last year, and the wisdom of the winter solstice can really be healing for us. So I'm going to have a little celebration with a slideshow and some music, and I'd like to have folks who feel like contributing write a little something that they might like to share about something that may have been incredibly sad over the last year, and then writing a gratitude story as a result. So we're going to tell our stories and acknowledge the darkness and what can come to light as a result of it. So consider coming on Zoom tonight, 6:30. It's on the website under the regular first and third Sunday sit. And I would love to see new people there. And I put it in the chat with the Zoom link. So anybody that might be on Zoom can copy and paste that link if they want to check in later. So thank you so much for doing this technical wonder. And it's wonderful to be a part of the Dharma in your life.
Thank you, Candle. What about zooming in on me a little bit? We can start now that you're back. I had a really wonderful time last night. I turned 75 on the 24th of December. Next week. This week. That's a big number, 75. I've tried to have fun on my birthday for the better part of a century. Right? You know about that experience? It's like, well, I really want this to be a great birthday. This one to do it. And there was an earlier one that was 41 years ago that really made a big step. And I was having my usual experience of, well, who do I invite to a party and who's going to come at this time of year anyway, and then my wife went into labor on the evening of the 22nd. Is that right? Sometime then. It was a long labor. And my son was born on the 23rd. And I have a favorite picture, which is of me holding him. I had no shirt on, and I had him against my body. And he'd only been out, I don't know, a couple or 3 minutes. And there he was on my wife's chest. And I said very tentatively, could I hold him? Because my fear was that my relationship to children was going to be like my father's relationship to children, and that I wouldn't know how, and I wouldn't be allowed to be close. And she handed me the baby, and I just exploded into joyful tears, and he was still covered in meconium. I mean, it was just this in blood. He was new. And so that did quite a number on my birthday issue. You know, like, oh, okay, this is a pretty big gift. And I want to talk today. I'm hoping to speak today about how to go through this holiday time and be neither stressed nor disappointed. And it's an interesting time, right? We get together with people that otherwise we avoid, sometimes known as our extended family. And we overcome some barriers of being in the same room, and sometimes it's really hard. Just so interesting to me watching what arises in the mind. There were, this is a long time ago, several decades, but again with my first wife, and her mother, Joni, good friend for a long time till she passed away. Her mother was very hard of hearing, as was Joni's brother. And the brother came to visit. And there was one particular Christmas when we had all of her family, her brothers and Joni and George. And Joni and George shouted at each other all the time. I mean, really loud shouting. And it sounded like a fight all the time. And it was so interesting to try to stay balanced in the middle of that. And there was a fair amount of alcohol flowing around too. So those were very interesting Christmases. I discovered actually that in my early training, I had done a couple of months of very intensive practice, and I had done the dishes for 12 people every day, 3 meals a day for 2 months. And I was dying in the meditation. So I took every dish. It was like, yes. And I became very meditative washing dishes. And so during this particular period of Christmases, I would always go to the kitchen and become the ultimate husband, because I would do all the dishes and no, don't. I'll do them, and I would cut up the turkey, and I'd start making the soup, and I'd have about 3 hours of not having to engage in the screaming match. It was really quite comforting. But what's the core of what the Buddha taught? The absolute heart of it. It's the Four Noble Truths. That applique, that art piece back there on that wall is an image of the Buddha giving the first Dharma talk. It's colorfully called the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. That will be on the test. The Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. It means the putting in motion the wheel of the Dharma. So, what if you were the Buddha? And you'd realize something. You'd realize something that you've been longing to understand your whole life. And you discovered, you understood that it would save people, that people could, if they could learn this, they would suffer less, they'd treat each other much better. And they would have a sense of direction and purpose in their lives. That'd be a powerful thing to have, wouldn't it? Well, that was when he taught the Four Noble Truths, or the Four Ennobling Truths. And I'm going to make the connection with that and having a good time over this holiday period. Dukkha. Dukkha we usually translate it as suffering, but it's much bigger than that. It's unsatisfactoriness. Ruth Denison put it, there's always a leak in the canoe. There's always a leak in the canoe. That's a big statement. There's always a leak in the canoe. Last summer, sitting in my backyard, I was in a place of really quite a lot of tranquility. And I was reflecting back somehow on my life, and I had this sense, which was very familiar to me, that, well, it's been a remarkable life. I mean, I was a cowboy in Australia. I worked on freighters. I was a ski patrolman in Switzerland. I've had several, I counted them, I've had several really profound relationships, primary relationships in my life. I have 2 adult children. I have now 2 remarkable stepkids, and for 13 years I had 3 other stepkids who disappeared from my life. I had Ruth Denison as my teacher. I had 3 relationships with very fine psychotherapists that lasted more than 10 years each. I mean, I have been so lucky, so fortunate. I have the Dharma. And yet I had this sense that there was always something wrong. You know, it's really cool. I was a ski patrolman in Switzerland, and I was the foreigner. And so I got to run the T-bar rather than be with the guys up on the mountain carrying dynamite on my back and creating avalanches. It's like they were having fun and I was bored to death, etc. There was always something wrong. And it struck me. Really, it was a moment of, wait. Isn't that what there's always a leak in the canoe means? Isn't that what the Buddha said? That there's always dukkha. It's the nature of life. And all of a sudden, the whole thing got reframed. It was like, duh, I'm making a personal struggle out of normalcy. Right? I'm making a problem out of something where there was no problem. It was just that there's always a leak in the canoe. There's always disappointment. As long as there's an expectation, there's disappointment. So the traditional list of dukkhas is birth, sickness, old age, decay, and death. You know, I've been teaching this for 40 years. I've paid lip service to old age. It gets harder and harder. And the decay piece, I never really paid attention to that. But when I get up in the morning and go to sleep at night, I have one of those little plastic containers that has pharmaceuticals in it. Why? Because I'd be dead without them. Because the system is decaying. Who would have thunk it, right? Birth, sickness, old age, decay, and death. I've talked to people who were my elders. And actually, there's a member of PIMC who said to me, he's a little older than me. He said, the older I get, the more dead friends I have. That's true. So birth, sickness, old age, decay, death. Having experiences you don't want to have. Not having the experiences you do want to have. Have any of those today? Not being with the person you really want to be with. Having an unpleasant boss. Or being in a relationship which is really not working and it's unpleasant. Or not being with the person that you really want to be with. So there's all this liking and disliking, wanting. So that's dukkha. And our task, and it's one of the reasons this kind of meditation is so difficult, and also why it's never a mass movement. Because it takes facing the dukkha. And our entire culture is as our most, is predicated upon denying dukkha and being happy like that. I did a soda run, buying sugar syrup in Coca-Cola cans. Day before yesterday, I went to Costco. I've never seen a place so busy, and I watched. It's like, wow, this is a frantic attempt at satisfaction through consumption. And I then looked at it with a broader memory of what's happening on the earth, and I said, well, of course the earth is in crisis and failing. How could a planet keep up with this? There's no way to keep up with this level of consumption. So, not to belabor this too far, dukkha. And the guidance from the Buddha was, this dukkha is to be understood. So first we have to poke the denial, and then we have to devote ourselves to realizing how often we're disappointed. And then, this is a really grim Dharma talk if I now stop and say, that's it? We're screwed. It's grim. And, oh well. Or, excuse me a second. Everything ready to go. Oh, here it is. Oh, boy, I feel better now. Isn't that a relief? Oh, you're all so beautiful. Or something like that. So, are we willing to realize how much dukkha there is? And then there's this second noble or second ennobling truth, which is, what causes the suffering? Is it the pain in my hand or the pain in my heart? Is it the fact that this person died or left me or whatever? Is that the real cause of the suffering, or is that just reality? And this was the Buddha's huge discovery, which is that there's it's not secondary, there's an integral process in which there's the experience that this shouldn't be happening. The traditional translation is, hang on, I've got to take this watch off. I had it set to let me know when text messages come in, and it's such a disturbance. I'm going to turn it off. The Buddha called it thirst. In response to the experiences of life, if it's pleasure, I want it. I want more of this. I want more of this. If it's pain or displeasure, I don't want it. I want this. I want to get rid of this. Or a third option is, this moment rather sucks, and I'm going to become something different. I'm going to do something. I'll get another degree, or I'll have a baby, or I'll do this, and that will make me happy. And it can be big things or very little things. And the task is to actually turn toward the reality of dukkha. This dukkha is to be understood, and then we understand it. We get more and more capable of knowing, wow, there is this subtle to not so subtle dissatisfaction. And then we start becoming more sophisticated in our observation, and we start noticing, oh, here's the pain, but here's where the suffering's coming from. And the suffering is coming from, no, I don't want this, or I want that, I want that. This moment is not okay. This moment is to be either resisted or grabbed onto or left to go into the future. And that's as observable, as discernible as this table. The craving, the tanha, it's called the thirst, liking, disliking. And we can start observing that. And then in the observing that, as that becomes understood, there's the practice, and it really is a practice of noticing that and somehow letting go of it. Alchemically, almost. We discover that I'm suffering because I'm really wanting this to be a certain way, and it's not that way. And but damn, I really want it to. But somehow or another, we learn how to let go of it. And our meditation practice is the gym where we learn how to let go of whatever's arising in the mind. I had a first very important experience with this when I was practicing for a little while as a monk in India, and it's a whole long story, but I got kidney stones. I didn't know what they were. I was in a small village, Bodh Gaya, where there was no medical care, and all I could do was to sit there or lie there in this excruciating pain. And however, I'd been meditating for 6 or 7 weeks very intensively, and I had the ability to turn toward the physical, toward the pain, and go deeper and deeper into it, and then watch the mind, oh no, I'm going to die in India, and I want my mommy, and this was all happening. But it was all lit up with mindfulness. And the suffering was almost non-existent. There's a lot of pain, but the suffering, I discovered, the suffering came not from the pain, but from the resistance to the pain, from having a self that is in resistance to the pain. And I did an experiment 3 days in. I took what I would now look upon as a rather small dose of codeine, and I observed as this spaciousness collapsed, and there I was, a 27-year-old child, crying and really out of my depth. And then a few hours later, the space opened up again, mindfulness. Now I worked in hospice for quite some time, and I've had the opportunity to teach quite a few people in extreme pain how to do this, and they commonly would reduce their medication by 50%, which meant they could be with their family. Now, in addition to that, I've trained thousands of people, really. I've helped thousands of people to turn toward the pain in their lives and bravely open to it and discover that they don't have to suffer nearly as much as they thought because they can meditate. And not meditate to distract themselves, but meditate to turn into it and to use these truths, these fundamental truths of human experience that the Buddha discovered. Stop running, turn toward it, open up into it, and realize where the suffering is coming from. There's another way to speak of it, which is early on, I was trying so hard to sit cross-legged, and I did these retreats in which there were vow sittings. You had to sit for an hour, and it was like the teacher would be mad at you if you moved. And so I sat there, and my knee was exploding. It was always damaged, and before that, and I would be sitting there, and there'd be this pain and suffering, and then all of a sudden, the suffering would go out of it, and there'd just be pain. Very weird. And then the suffering would come back. And what I was observing right there were the first three of the Four Noble Truths. Dukkha, its cause, tanha, and nibbana, or nirodha, or nirvana, which isn't another planet somewhere. It's the experience of quenching that happens when we really study the disappointment, when we really open to it. And then the fourth of the Four Ennobling Truths is the path, the Eightfold Path. Now I want to bring it to the, I do need to check the time. Oh, good. This time of year. I feel sorry for my children. Because their father would be watching what was happening on Christmas morning and saying things like, well, of course you're disappointed. Presents will never do it. It's like, come on, Dad, give me a break. But there was a time, my daughter Tara, who was here last night, my son and daughter were both here. It was great. And Tara was, I don't know, 4.5, that incredibly beautiful little girl age. And she wanted a doll for Christmas. And the doll was within our budgetary possibility. And she came in a fancy box. And it's nice as a parent to fulfill your child's wishes. She opened it, and she was so happy and excited. And then she looked up with this long face and said, Daddy, where's the music? Because that doll was on TV, danced and sang, and was really happy. And as it turned out, she was a piece of expensive plastic. So, my birthday party last night was the happiest birthday I've ever had. I had a 70th birthday, a surprise party that Jennifer and Tara put together. And that was wonderful. But last night, I was really not requiring anything. It didn't have to be a certain way. And it's such a relief when things can be as they are. So I want to bring it to whatever you do for holidays this year. What are your expectations? What are your unspoken expectations? Is Uncle Charlie, who always comes and gets drunk and is really obnoxious, is he coming? Are you going to be offended by his behavior again? Or if someone is in another city and can't make it this year, they have COVID or something, or I went through a horrendous divorce, custody battle. Where will the children be on Christmas morning? Will they be here or will they be in another state? How much will I suffer if they're not here? Christmas was a big thing for me in childhood. Though my dad did get drunk every Christmas morning, that made it a bit challenging. He was in some ways, he was an amazing man. Christmas morning, he'd become a child. He so loved presents, and it was quite wild, quite beautiful. But we had our way that we did our Christmas tree as a child. We had our special ornaments and so on. And then I traveled the world for 5 years, and there were Christmases here and there. And then there was the first marriage, and then, well, she did her Christmas thing really differently, and I adapted to that. And then I was in another relationship after that ended, and she did her Christmas tree completely differently. And then there were those kids involved, the stepkids. And then I get involved with Jennifer, and their family does it completely differently. And I noticed over the years the suffering about not doing it the right way till now. I couldn't care less how we decorate the stupid tree. Why worry about that? And I'm saying that as a symbol, right? Whatever the rituals, this is what we do. Jennifer likes ham for Christmas. Ham at Christmas? She says, "Well, we had turkey at Thanksgiving." Well, so what? It's what you. But is it worth suffering over? And so I'm inviting you now, and maybe between now and whenever you do, whatever festivities you do, there's an equation or a question. If you're suffering about something in advance or at the time or after, for that matter, what are your unenforceable rules? Right? About what would you say this shouldn't be happening this way? And when you get in touch with those unenforceable rules, why not let them go? And there's a big frame on this. I don't know whether I can do it justice, but let me set this so I know what to do here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. There's a big frame, which is I don't know how to say it. Well, let's put it like this. 50 years from now, 100 years from now, presuming there are humans 100 years from now, because it is in the balance. No one's going to know you were even here. No one's going to care what happened at your party, whatever it was, what you had for dinner. No one's going to care that your child didn't make it home, or they chose to. Oh, that's another one now. When your child gets involved with another person and gets involved with their family, then there's another family that's pulling on them. Complicated. And we can choose to suffer when things change. And we do, mightily, don't we? Or somehow or another, we can keep this big perspective in mind, and then we can notice ourselves suffering. Say, but what's my unenforceable rule? And do I want to suffer over this? And there is some choice in it. That's the remarkable thing, that we can notice, oh, this is dukkha. What's causing it? Well, I have this tanha, this craving. I want it to be like it was. But guess what, Robert? It's not. And what's wrong with that? Turns out things change all the time and in big ways. Right? The person you were joyous with a year ago or 5 years ago or 15 years ago or whenever actually has changed, or you've changed, or they've died or something. And that experience that was so wonderful has been over since it happened. And the unconscious demand for the present moment to be like that is terrible for us. And that's what the Buddha taught. The taste of the teachings in the beginning is the taste of freedom. The taste in the middle is the taste of freedom. And the taste at the end is the taste of freedom. Freedom. Freedom from suffering. So I want to close with a very beautiful, familiar to me, to many of you have heard me say this. It's from Ajahn Chah, great master of the last century. This moment is like this. Whenever you want to bring your practice into perfect balance, it's like this. Oh gosh, things aren't turning out like I wanted. It's like this. Things are not turning out as I wanted, and there's some sadness. Oh, that's a good example. In the hour before I left home to come here yesterday, I had 3 long-term friends, 4, text and say, sorry, can't make it to the party. Watch the face. They're not coming. They're choosing not to come. How fascinating to watch that, right? And how fascinating to notice that experience is transient and predictable. You know, there's a little disappointment, but why stay stuck there? Why not do the grieving we need to do so that we don't stay stuck on those really trivialities? And in fact, that those moments of inner pouting can turn to compassion. It's like, oh boy, I guess she really is sick again. You know, so it really switches it from being all about me or oneself, and it switches it into being, oh, this is happening. This is such a crappy time with sickness. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. And I hope you will have a marvelous time through these holidays. And take delight. I guess there's one other image. I don't know. Should I do it or not? Well, when I find this mind moving into, I want it differently, I think about those mommies and daddies in Ukraine with 1-week-old babies and no heat. And we can easily think about somebody who's in the ICU today in Portland, waiting to know if their person will live or not. And it doesn't take, and I don't mean to get lost in that, But just as a touchstone, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. My heart's beating quite well, and none of my close family are sick. And it won't always be like this, right? This is we're having a reprieve, and things are all nicely together. And so the things that are disappointing, who cares? Because there's so many of them that are working perfectly. So. What does the calendar say? I forget when. Oh, Sunday's the 25th. I guess we're not meeting next Sunday. It's Christmas Day. Huh. Guess not. Yeah. So thank you for coming this morning, and I really do hope you have a wonderful, wonderful. I'm not sure. Let me think of it, because we do have the evening event, and maybe someone will teach it, but I think I probably doesn't make sense for me to this year. So let's make a big circle and come on up here on the stage. Hello, Jamie. How nice of you to appear. Jamie did such a great job being our Zoom artist, bringing as many as 20 people attended the party last night on Zoom because of Jamie. Let's go back a bit. There we go. Well, let's bring a little lightness into the season. You ready? You want to do a little lightness? You know it's coming. Think a light thought, like hydrogen or helium, or if you've seen the movie Upness. If you haven't seen the movie Up, it's a required movie. And then I rarely teach this, mostly on retreat I teach it. It's known to the common people as levitation. And levitation is done in a very simple, specific fashion in which we bend our knees, and I will count 1, 2, 3, and then we all lift up into the air and we hover. You ready? And it goes like, and you at home can do this too, just be careful. And then 1, 2, 3, levitate. Did you feel that? There's someone over there that's not believing. Who is it? Confess. Who doesn't believe? So, bending the knees. And think light thought. Feathers. 1, 2, 3, levitate. That was way better, wasn't it? Do you feel the length of time we hovered? Uh-huh. All right. So, notice some mirth, right? Bending the knees. 1, 2, 3, levitate. Oh, that's one. Do one more because it's so satisfying. Ready? Though, as we're getting better and better at this, be careful of the ceiling, and those of you under the fans, be careful. So going down. 1, 2, 3, levitate. Ah, yes, that was cool. Good. I forgot to tell you this before, that you're not allowed to tell anyone of anything else that we do here. You're allowed to speak of, but this is we'll hunt you down if you tell anyone of our psychic powers. All right. Thank you, Zoomers, for being here this morning. Let us be aware of our feet and hands. And let's close with a practice from the Sufis. The words are Ya Shakur. Ya Shakur is one of the 99 beautiful names of God in Islam. And it means how exquisitely the One is manifesting to me in this moment as you. It's kind of when you greet one another, it's like, hi, how are you? It's a different greeting to say, how exquisitely God is manifesting to me in this moment as you. If the G word troubles you, it's the one or the mystery or. So when we do this by letting go of these hands, bringing our hands over our hearts, and then pick someone across the room or near you, maybe even make eye contact, and then it's Ya Shakur. And have that thought, how exquisitely, how stunningly beautiful you are. It's another way of saying it. And that we're here in the same moment at the same time we're both still breathing. What a miracle. So we'll do it a few times. We'll do it 9 times. So let your knees bend a little bit. Feel the life in your body. And then Ya Shakur. 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 And then to all beings everywhere. Ya Shakur. Yay. As mentioned earlier, there's a lot of food. Please come have some. And if you have some idea how to distribute it skillfully, please let me know. Thank you for coming. See you soon.
I love my Zoomers. Bye, all.
Bye, Sangha.
Bye. Nice
Namaste.
Sangha.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Christy
Love,
and
love,
Lou.
love.
And goodbye, Sherry. Goodbye, Jai.
Goodbye, Robert.
And Joan and Stephanie and Elwin. And people vanishing.
Love,
And
love,
Janet and
love.
Pat.
Bye.
Hi, Jai.
Bye. I missed the party last night, but I'm here
And
now.
Pamela, I can't hear you, Jai. We're not equipped for the sound coming this way today. We got here very late. It's a miracle we got it to run, actually. Yeah. All right.